My name is Daniel Reyes, and for the past 12 years, I've served as a signals intelligence officer in the U.S. Army, with the last 5 focused exclusively on cyber defense operations under the 780th Military Intelligence Brigade. By December 2024, I held the rank of Lieutenant Colonel, earned a base pay of $142,000 annually, and received an additional $68,000 in housing and deployment allowances. My wife Evelyn and I lived in a custom-built 6,200-square-foot modern farmhouse in McLean, Virginia, a property we purchased in 2020 for $1.9 million, paid off through a combination of my military home loan and a portion of her inheritance. Our life wasn't flashy, but it was precise. Morning runs at 05:30, Sunday meal prep, quarterly financial reviews, and biannual system audits of our smart home network. I treated our household like a secured node, because in my line of work, you learn that betrayal rarely announces itself with sirens. It slips in through an unpatched vulnerability. Evelyn came from old Virginia money. Her grandfather, Robert Whitmore III, founded a regional logistics empire that was later acquired by a Fortune 500 firm. When he passed in 2018, he left Evelyn a $4.2 million irrevocable trust, with $1.7 million earmarked for immediate disbursement upon stable marital cohabitation. The trust documents were reviewed by both of us with our attorneys before we even exchanged vows. At the time, it felt like a formality, an old man's way of ensuring his granddaughter didn't marry a gold digger. I wasn't after her money. I'd already declined 2 civilian cybersecurity offers, paying over $220,000 because I believed in the mission. But Evelyn loved the symbolism. "You're the only man I know who'd rather protect a network than own one," she'd told me once, tracing the scar on my forearm from a field exercise in Fort Irwin. I deployed to Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar on December 17, 2024, for a classified cyber resilience operation scheduled to last 132 days. Before I left, I performed a full diagnostic on our home systems. 4 Arlo Pro 5 cameras, disguised as smoke detectors in the main hallway, kitchen, master bedroom alcove, and garage, were set to record continuously to both local 256GB SD cards and an encrypted AWS S3 bucket I managed through a military-grade key vault. Cloud motion alerts were disabled to reduce noise. I'd review footage weekly during my 0200 to 0400 comms window. Evelyn knew about the cameras. She'd even helped choose the finishes. "Better safe than sorry," she'd said when we installed them after a neighbor's home was burglarized in 2023. For the first 3 weeks of deployment, everything seemed normal. She texted photos of her yoga retreat in Sedona, sent a care package with my favorite dark roast and a handwritten note, "Missing your discipline, come home soon." Then, on January 9, 2025, at 0317 Qatar time, I logged into the AWS console to pull the weekly footage and found a gap. Between January 3rd and January 8th, the cloud sync had been manually paused from inside the home network. Odd, but not alarming. Maybe a router reset. I checked the local SD backup via the Arlo desktop client, still intact. That's when I saw it. Frame 0422, on January 4, footage from the kitchen camera. Evelyn, dressed in silk pajamas I'd never seen before, laughing as a man, tall, blonde, mid to late 20s, poured champagne into 2 flutes. At 6:17, same camera, the 2 of them cooking breakfast, barefoot, his hand resting on the small of her back. At 15:44, garage cam, his black 2022 Acura NSX parked in my space. By January 6th, he was using my home office. On January 7th, the master bedroom camera, which I only activated during travel for security, captured them in bed. The metadata confirmed it. Local recording never stopped. Evelyn had only disabled cloud notifications. She wanted to hide the betrayal from me, not erase it. I scrolled further. On January 12th, my 2017 Porsche 911 Carrera S, purchased with deployment bonuses, registered solely in my name, was towed out of the garage. Carfax later showed it sold on January 15th to a dealership in Rockville for $89,500. No signature from me, no authorization. Then came the biggest red flag. A $50,000 wire transfer from Evelyn's personal account to someone named Tyler Madsen. Tyler Madsen. A quick OSINT sweep revealed he was her personal trainer at Equinox Tyson's Corner. His Instagram, now private, had a post from January 5, a blurred shot of our kitchen island with the caption, "New view, new life." My blood didn't boil. It went still. In CyberOps, we're trained to treat anomalies as data, not drama. So I treated this like a breach investigation. I preserved the footage chain of custody, hashed every file, downloaded full-resolution copies to an air-gapped drive, and then I reread the Whitmore trust deed, specifically Clause 7b. Beneficiary shall forfeit all distributions upon cohabitation with a non-spousal partner during marriage, as verified by two independent forms of evidence. I had video, I had financial records, I had license plate logs from our Ring doorbell. That was more than two. If you enjoy stories of cold-blooded revenge and gripping plot twists, like this video and subscribe to the channel now. There are brand new unreleased stories here every day. My blood ran cold, but my mind was clear. In my line of work, emotional volatility is a vulnerability. So I compartmentalized. I treated Evelyn not as a wife, but as a threat actor who had compromised a high-value asset, our marriage, our home, and potentially my financial standing. The next 48 hours were spent in silent triage. From my bunk at Al Udeid, I drafted a three-phase response: secure, verify, execute. Phase 1 began at 0400 on January 20, 2025. I contacted Captain Leanna Ruse, a JAG officer I'd worked with during a cyber fraud case in 2022. She was now a civilian attorney specializing in marital asset protection and trust litigation. I sent her an encrypted package via Signal, no voice, no metadata, containing the footage timestamps, bank transfers, and vehicle records. Her reply came 6 hours later. Clause 7b is enforceable, but you need corroboration beyond surveillance. Find a second vector. That second vector came from Evelyn herself. On January 22, she texted me a photo of our living room with new abstract art on the walls. "Making the place feel fresh while you're gone," she wrote. In the background, Tyler's gym bag, distinctive black with neon green straps and his name embroidered, was slung over the lazy boy. I screenshotted it, geotagged it, GPS confirmed McLean, and cross-referenced it with Equinox's employee gear policy. Yes, they issued those exact bags. That was Vector 2. Phase 2, preparation. I contacted Arlo's enterprise support using my DoD email and requested a forensic audit log of all device access between December 1 and January 20. They complied within 36 hours, standard procedure for government personnel. The log showed Evelyn had accessed the admin portal on January 3rd at 22:14 and disabled cloud sync for all 4 cameras. She never attempted to delete footage, which proved intent to conceal, not destroy. That nuance mattered in court. Meanwhile, I reached out to Marcus Boone, a former NSA colleague who now ran a boutique digital forensics firm in Alexandria. For a flat fee of $3,500, he set up a mirrored evidence server, geolocked to Virginia, compliant with FRE 90214 for self-authenticating electronic evidence. Every file I sent him was timestamped, hashed, SHA-256, and notarized via blockchain ledger. By February 1, the entire case existed in a tamper-proof vault accessible only with my biometric key and a 24-word recovery phrase stored in 3 separate safe deposit boxes. The final piece was legal positioning. I instructed Captain Ruse to send a quiet letter to Harlan Cho, the Whitmore family attorney, advising him of a potential breach of trust covenants without disclosing specifics. Cho, bound by fiduciary duty, was obligated to investigate, but he couldn't act without evidence. That created a window. Evelyn, sensing nothing, continued her routine. On February 14, she posted a Valentine photo with Tyler at the inn at Little Washington. Caption, "Finally with someone who sees me." I saved it, added it to the server. Phase 3. Feigned ignorance. I resumed normal communication. I asked about her yoga, complimented her new haircut in a video call, said I missed her cooking. Inside, I was calibrating the trap. I knew the annual Whitmore Trust Review luncheon was scheduled for May 3, 2025, at the Jefferson Hotel, a gilded, old-money affair where Evelyn's mother, Margaret Whitmore, held court like a dowager queen. It was the perfect stage, public enough to ensure consequences, private enough to avoid media circus. I timed my R&R to end on April 30th. I told Evelyn I'd be home on May 1st to decompress. She texted back, "Can't wait to have you back in your own bed." The irony wasn't lost on me. In the final weeks of deployment, I rehearsed my moves like a mission brief. I would arrive at the luncheon unannounced. I would carry a folio containing a notarized affidavit, 3 printed stills from the footage, the forensic log, and a formal demand for immediate trust fund suspension under Clause 7B. I would say nothing until the moment was right, and then I would let the evidence speak. Because in cyber warfare and in betrayal, the most devastating attack isn't the one you see coming, it's the one that's already inside. May 3, 2025, dawned humid and overcast. A typical DC spring day. I woke at 0400 in my temporary billet at Fort Myer, shaved with military precision and dressed in my Class A service uniform. Olive green coat with silver oak leaves on the shoulders, ribbons aligned to the quarter-inch, nameplate polished. I carried no weapon, only a black leather folio embossed with my initials. Inside, the evidence. Outside, the mask of a decorated officer returning home. The Jefferson Hotel, just off 16th Street NW, exuded old-world opulence. Crystal chandeliers, Persian rugs, the faint scent of bergamot and aged leather. The Whitmore luncheon was held in the Green Room, a private salon reserved for the family's most discreet affairs. I arrived at 12:47 p.m., precisely 13 minutes after the scheduled start. The maitre d', recognizing the uniform, didn't question my presence. He simply opened the double doors. The room fell silent. Evelyn sat at the head of a mahogany table, flanked by her mother, Margaret, her younger sister, Claire, Harlan Cho, and 2 board members from Whitmore Holdings. A silver champagne bucket sweated beside her. She wore a cream silk dress I'd never seen, probably bought with my Porsche's proceeds. Her eyes widened. Not with guilt, with annoyance. As if I'd interrupted a private meeting with an untimely delivery. "Daniel," she said, voice tight, "what are you doing here? I thought you were resting." "I was," I said calmly, "but I received urgent notice regarding a breach of fiduciary compliance." I didn't look at her. I looked at Harlan Cho. "Mr. Cho, may I join you?" Cho, a man in his late 60s with wire-rimmed glasses and a reputation for discretion, nodded slowly. "Of course, Colonel." I took the empty chair opposite Evelyn. The air was thick with tension masked as civility. Waiters paused. Claire stared at her lap. Margaret's lips thinned into a line of disapproval. Evelyn forced a smile. "Darling, this is a family trust matter. You're sweet to care, but—" I interrupted. "It directly concerns you and your continued eligibility as beneficiary." She laughed, a brittle, performative sound. "Oh, don't be dramatic. Grandfather's trust is ironclad, and we're happily married." "Are we?" I opened the folio.
Between January 4th and February 28th, 2025, while I was deployed to Qatar under a classified cyber operation, you cohabited with Tyler Madsen, a personal trainer from Equinox Tyson's Corner, in our marital residence at 2418 Foxhall Road, McLean. Silence. Not a single clink of silverware. I laid out the first still. Evelyn and Tyler in our kitchen, champagne flutes raised. This was captured by Camera Unit 3, January 4th, 1544 local time. Metadata verified. Second still. Tyler sleeping in my side of the bed. January 7th, 0218. Same camera. Third. Tyler's Acura NSX in my garage. My Porsche gone. January 12. Vehicle records confirm unauthorized sale. Then I slid a printed page to Cho. The forensic log from Arlo showing Evelyn disabling CloudSync on January 3rd. She concealed the activity, but preserved local footage, likely assuming I couldn't access it remotely. She was wrong. Evelyn's face drained of color. You spied on me? I secured my home, I corrected. And Clause 7b of your trust explicitly states that cohabitation with a non-spousal partner during marriage voids all distributions. I have 4 independent lines of evidence: video, geolocation, financial transfer, $50,000 wire to Madsen on January 18th, and third-party corroboration via Equinox gear policy. Cho flipped through the documents, his expression shifting from skepticism to grim realization. Mrs. Race, this is substantial. Margaret leaned forward, voice trembling with fury. Evelyn, is this true? It wasn't serious. He was just staying temporarily. Daniel was gone for months. You don't understand. I understand perfectly, I said. You assumed deployment meant disconnection. But in my world, absence doesn't mean blindness. It means opportunity to observe without interference. I turned to Cho. Per Virginia Code, Section 64.2-770 and the Trust's Arbitration Clause, I request immediate suspension of all distributions pending formal review. I've already filed a notice of marital misconduct with the Fairfax County Circuit Court. A temporary restraining order on the trust assets will be issued by 1700 today. Cho nodded slowly. Given the evidence, I must comply. Evelyn shot to her feet, chair screeching. You can't do this! That money is mine! No, I said, standing to my full height, 6'1", uniform crisp, voice low and final. It was never yours to misuse while pretending to honor our vows. You didn't just betray me, Evelyn. You insulted the institution that protected you. My service, our marriage, the trust your grandfather built on integrity. I looked around the room, at Margaret's devastated face, Claire's wide eyes, the board members exchanging uneasy glances. You wanted a new life? Fine. But you don't get to fund it with stolen dignity. Then I turned and walked out. No shouting, no theatrics, just the quiet click of dress shoes on marble as the room dissolved into frantic whispers behind me.
The fallout was swift and surgical. By May 5th, the Whitmore Trust Board unanimously voted to freeze Evelyn's $1.7 million disbursement pending a full forensic audit. On May 12, Tyler Madsen was fired from Equinox after the gym's HR received an anonymous but detailed dossier linking him to financial entanglement with a married client. Evelyn tried to fight the trust suspension, but without the $50,000 monthly distributions she'd grown accustomed to, she couldn't retain top-tier counsel. By July, she'd moved out of the McLean house, now under my sole ownership per our prenup, and into a one-bedroom apartment in Arlington. The Porsche was never recovered. The dealership claimed it had been resold to a private buyer in Texas. I didn't pursue it. Some losses are symbolic.
I was reassigned in August 2025 to a joint cyber task force in Colorado Springs, a promotion, really. The house in McLean is listed for sale. I don't need the square footage anymore. Just clean lines, quiet mornings, and systems I can trust. As for Evelyn, last I heard she's dating a community college instructor who drives a 10-year-old Honda. No trust fund, no grand gestures, just reality. I don't hate her. Hate is inefficient. But I learned something far more valuable. That the strongest defenses aren't walls or weapons. They're patience, precision, and the quiet confidence that truth, when properly documented, always finds its moment to speak. And when it does, it doesn't scream. It freezes everything in its path.